Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Game Logic from the Routing Off Infinity Gaming channel on YouTube, one of the co-hosts of the Enough to Keep Going weekly video games podcast on the E2KG Network podcasting channel on YouTube. Back with another episode of Enough to Keep Going. Did I already say that? This is episode number 424 for Sunday, the 15th of February. Here with me, as always, I have my stalwart partners in crime, starting with Mr. DBQ Hams. How you doing, DBQ?
I'm doing well. Glad to be here. Glad to be here. I'll say it twice just in case, just like the name of the podcast. I'll make sure to say it twice.
And Tao Master, how you doing, Tao?
I'm doing well. I like your brick wall background there tonight.
Yeah, we were a little short fused on getting things picking where I was going to do the podcast from tonight. So here we are, 2 days from the NFL being allowed to hang franchise tags on players that it chooses, and 3 weeks from the start of the Formula One season. So, in addition to that, we have lots of games that we already have to choose through as they are already piling up, stacking up on top of each other. So tonight we're going to get started with segment one, our main gaming experience stories, and predominantly what we have been primarily focused on playing during the week. And tonight we're going to start with DBQ, who has been playing a game on Xbox.
Yeah, I've been playing a couple new things this week. First, I'll start off with the Squanch Games new game, High on Life 2. It came out on Thursday. It is on Game Pass on Xbox and PC. It's also PC, Xbox, and PlayStation for purchase. It is more High on Life, sans Justin Roiland. That Justin Roiland is no longer part of Squanch Games, and Squanch Games has moved on and moved forward with this. And so it picks up after the first game. In the first game, you played as a bounty hunter. It was very much you had talking guns that were played by comedic actors and actresses. That you had a lot of characters that you were interacting with. It was a little bit of an adventure, a little bit of a first-person shooter. Or maybe a first-person shooter platformer as well. And so this game falls right in line with that, or at least the few hours that I've played. It is, you pick up shortly after the game, the last one, and being kind of the hero. The introduction to the game kind of walks you through, it's a kind of fun tutorial in terms of jumping between different kind of press junkets and your bounty hunter life. And you play as a bounty hunter, interstellar bounty hunter. It's a lot of aliens, a lot of crazy technology, and a lot of kind of over the top sarcastic humor in it as well. And so once you get through the tutorial piece, the kind of hook is that your sister is eco-terrorist and now has a bounty out on her. And so in the first kind of real mission, you head to find her, protect her, rescue her before other bounty hunters get her. And in the process, you end up turning on other bounty hunters, which sets up basically the game narrative of other bounty hunters coming after you, you trying to rescue your sister. Some of the voice cast from the first game comes back. Let's see here. You've got BK Simmons, JB Simmons. There we go. JB Simmons, JB Smooth. Why do I say Simmons? Sorry, I apologize. JB Smooth is one of the guns, and he's been in all kinds of things. I appreciate and enjoy his kind of wit and humor and cadence, which works great for a gun that you're swapping out in and out. Another gun that comes back from the first game is voiced by Betsy Sodaro, another comedian. And so they have quips that they'll say, in between as you're kind of swapping them out, or in between different things going on in the world. They'll sometimes give you hints. You've got your bounty hunter agent who will give you some hints in that first mission as you kind of are learning both the movement and the kind of secondary powers. Every gun has a secondary power and then a kind of timed special attack that can either manipulate the environment or do additional damage, things like that. For movement, you end up getting a skateboard by the end of the first mission. which then plays out, and it continues to be kind of the equivalent of your sprint button. And so you've got a kind of faster movement with a skateboard, who you take off a very kind of 90s dinosaur lizard, who is the first boss. And just like the first game, a lot of the enjoyment that I'm finding, first game I played a couple hours and kind of bounced off it eventually. A lot of the enjoyment that I'm finding is in the character interactions, less so in the action. The world and the kind of side characters and little comedic bits that they do as you're walking around a city are fun. It depends on what you prefer for humor, but it feels less Rick and Morty than the first one did, and partly because of not having Justin Roiland chatting. But definitely some of that humor is still there, but it just doesn't feel. It feels a little more of a range of humor this time, and but some of the small bits with some of the characters that you kind of stumble into are. Just like comedy sketches, it works to have self-defined comedy in small little bits. It's harder to have comedy that's running throughout an entire game. That doesn't mean that it's not bad. I'm glad that there's kind of a lighthearted comedic shooter out there. There's not much else like it, but it's also, it really is going to depend on your taste, I think, right? Like it is, if the humor works for you, you will enjoy kind of sticking with it. It's got a story mode, in terms of difficulties, it starts you on kind of an easy, you can bump up to normal and extreme, and then kind of story if you just want to make your way through and see the humor. Yeah, I've played it both on Xbox and on PC. In part, I think because of my own play style, I'm enjoying it more on PC because as a first-person shooter, I feel a lot more accurate in my going through kind of the action sequences and things like that with the mouse and keyboard. But it runs well on both. I know there's been some reports out there that some of the optimization on PC hasn't been great, and that's. Again, I'm only running it at 1080p on PC with a 3060. And it's running okay. I don't have super high definition, and so it's running relatively smooth. A lot of shader caching going on as well. So yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's not going to be on, it suddenly isn't the best game so far this year, but I think it is effective in what it's trying to do.
Did this release on Game Pass? I think the first one did, didn't it? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, this came out day and date on Game Pass.
And then you had mentioned as far as like gameplay, I mean, is it pretty much like the first game? Is there anything new, like other than skateboard? Any new direction, like more shootery than anything else?
New guns yet. It's still, it's very similar, right? You've got a knife as your melee weapon. I think it's been a while since the first game. I think some of the one gun has a time bubble that it can shoot out as a special attack. Another has kind of a razor blade that can bounce around or become a platform. Some of the mechanics, like the grapple hook, definitely I remember that from the first game. So it doesn't feel drastically different in terms of kind of movement and combat. But it's also been a while since I've played the first game, so maybe there are more distinct differences. Did you play much of the first game?
No, I never played the first game at all. I never got around to it.
DBQ, have you played the Shadow Warrior series?
No.
So I'd be
curious
here. What's that? I'm sorry.
Are there parallels here?
I think the humor, right? Because Shadow Warrior is also a kind of a sophomoric humor, kind of slightly frat boyish take, right, on the shooter genre, and over the top here. But I mean, I say that, but I'd also kind of say that it skates close to kind of the humor of Big Trouble in Little China. Like it's just like a little, just a touch over the top. And
I guess I do remember seeing this. I mean, I remember the franchise. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just curious if there were similarities to the humor in it.
I would say this definitely fits in the over the top kind of Comedy Central humor.
Yeah, and then how are the actual shooting mechanics?
Feel pretty good. Again, I'm playing on I think on easy, so it's okay. Feels a little floaty, and some of the enemies, as they break off, many of them are robots or aliens, and so as they break off, you may have smaller parts to take out. Sometimes finding them on the screen, and maybe it's just the lighting and the settings that I had wasn't always the easiest. So, it's not a Bungie shooter. It doesn't feel, but it feels serviceable. It doesn't feel as squishy as like a Metroid Prime, but not as tight as Call of Duty Bungie type of thing.
I know in the first one, I think eventually they had an option where you can like tone down the talking. Is that still there, or do you know? Because I think people were complaining because the things were always just yakking like all the time. So,
I don't know. I haven't looked in the options to see if that's the case. And I think like when you are in an action sequence, it didn't feel too talky to me. Like it's or maybe it is talking, but my focus was on everything else going on. I think as you're moving around in some of the slower sequences, as you're, exploring a city and interacting with people, yeah, it's definitely talking there, but I think that that's part of its bit of what it's trying to do.
So so I'm sorry, I'm obviously working through like the technical stuff here as we're starting the podcast. So you have it listed that you're playing it on Xbox, but then I heard you say that you were playing it on PC at 1080p on an RTX 3060. So are you playing it on both?
Yeah, playing it on both. Started on Xbox, had a chance before the podcast to fire it up and play a little bit more on PC just to kind of compare. And so that's yep.
Okay. And are you playing the Xbox version on PC?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah, through Game Pass. So, well, I think the overly talkative nature of High on Life ties nicely into a Nintendo first party game. So, if you don't have any other questions, we can segue into Tao's game on the list.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Tao, take it away.
Yes, so I'm playing Mario Tennis Fever, the newest sports game from the Mario series here on Nintendo Switch, obviously. I'm not super far into it. I think it came out Thursday, I think, or so. Played it the last couple days, like a little bit here and there. So I've just been going in through the campaign, the adventure mode. I guess it's basically the campaign mode, kind of like they had in Mario Tennis Aces back on the original Switch. And I'm kind of liking it a little bit more, probably because it's more just kind of like in Aces, it's you're kind of going along this almost kind of like a board map, kind of where you kind of just going kind of following this one trail, and then sometimes it branched off and stuff like that. And you can go a different way, but this is pretty. I mean, you kind of dropped into kind of the tennis. I guess academy in the Mushroom Kingdom. Certain things happen at the beginning, so you have to relearn, of course, how to play tennis, which is kind of weird. But so you're doing these little mini games to kind of power yourself up. Your speed, your different the different hits that you can do, like the flat hit, the slap, the slice, actually not the slap, and kind of like the lobs and stuff like that. So you power those up, you power up your speed, and you power up these other abilities. So kind of RPGs, I suppose. I don't remember that in Aces. Not that I remember doing any kind of finagling with different stats like that. But it's kind of cool. So it's a little bit more I guess it's just easier because I got stuck in aces. I'm just gonna say it. I got stuck and I can't get past a certain part in aces. So and just stubborn. I didn't want to, go up and look how to do it. So eventually I'll probably, go back and play that one. But I'm having a lot of fun with the campaign so far. So when you do these little mini games, you can actually go back and kind of keep doing them. Like there's different levels. So there's each levels for the different ones you do. Like I said, you build up your speed. You're doing like a little kind of running around, or not running around. You're doing kind of have like these I guess wings, and it's kind of just like a track where you kind of the screen's coming down at you, and you gotta avoid obstacles and pick up these different colored balls or balloons. Certain ones to give you more points and stuff like that. So you kind of you're running back and forth trying to do that. So just kind of fun little mini games like that, and then in between, or then like you might do a couple of those, and then like all right, we're gonna throw you into a practice match. So they do that. So then you actually play a match against. I think all the teachers and whatnot are all toads in the academy, so you're going up against the toads, at least for now. And then you have Wario and Waluigi too that are kind of going through the same thing, because once again, I don't want to give anything away, not that it's like a huge complicated campaign, but I don't like to spoil things. But you got Wario and Waluigi there too, and they're trying to do the same thing, so you go against them every once in a while also. So I've played them I think once so far. And it's fairly easy so far. I mean, I'm not having any issues. I'm assuming, hopefully, maybe it gets a little bit harder, but I've dabbled a little bit on the online, and I don't know why, but I went to ranked like right away, and that was a mistake because I got absolutely trounced in my first match. So I was like, this guy was doing like all these spin moves and curves and stuff on the ball, which I hadn't learned yet. So I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll have to play through the campaign and actually learn the game, I guess, just like Mario is, So, but yeah.
In the campaign, are you unlocking? Because I know there's additional rackets. My son picked this game up as well, so I've had a chance to play it a little bit. There's a number of different rackets that have different special abilities, and as you build up that boost meter, the meter for your special abilities, you can use that. Are you unlocking? Are those just unlocked to begin with, or are you unlocking them as you go through the campaign?
No, yeah, you actually unlock them. Actually, when I was doing I did I think like 3 or 4 maybe online matches throughout the weekend. And I've unlocked one racket actually doing that way too. But actually in the campaign, yeah, you do unlock the rackets also as you're going through. I think the first one I unlocked was like the ice one or something. I think it was like the main one you start off with. So yeah, sure, but you unlock that stuff. And then I think there was like tennis courts too that I was unlocking as I was going through the campaign also. So there's at least those 2 for sure that you unlock. Maybe even a mode or 2 or something like that. But yeah, so you unlock that. So you get that.
And do the tennis courts have like special abilities or obstacles within them, kind of like Mario baseball or soccer has at different times?
I haven't seen anything on the courts itself other than just like if it's grass, it bounces a little bit higher. I think there's a sand one where obviously it's not going to bounce as high and stuff like that. But no, like I haven't seen anything like obstacles at all. It's more, I think the rackets are kind of do that part now, because like with the ice one, when I hit it back toward them, like as soon as the ball hit the ground, and like it iced the whole that section where the ball hit. And it was actually a pretty big area. It wasn't just like a little spot. So it was like almost half the court on their side. So, and I saw somebody use, I think it was like maybe a mud one or like a shadow one. It was like the ground was just all kind of like slippery. So I think it was mud or oil. So I've seen those.
Yeah, I've used a lightning one, which it gives you kind of an area of effect. And if the opponent gets in it, then they get stunned. Same with like a flame one. So yeah, and it seems like you have a health bar. So like if you get hit a couple times, you slow down.
Yeah, depending on the racket that's being used. Yeah. Which was kind of weird because I actually the first few matches I did online was just like you can do it with those the special rackets or without, and I did without, and that's when I was just getting messed up. When I actually put those special rackets in, I actually did pretty decent. So I might do that maybe going forward just to have a little edge there. But yeah, it's fun. There's also tournament mode, which you can do, which I haven't done yet. Towers, like I guess you just go up levels of towers. I haven't done that one yet. Also, there's a separate one for, and I don't know if you can use this. I'm assuming not, since it's a separate mode. But you can just use the Joy-Cons as actually the rackets, so you swing away.
There is a motion controlled. It's not a 1-to-1, and it's not quite Wii Sports Tennis.
Okay.
There's a little bit more. It's still definitely some waggle in there, but there's a little hook and slice that you can do as well. I've tried that with my son as well, and it works okay. It's not nearly as if putting spin on the ball like you can do and kind of direct your shot to the same degree that you can do with the analog stick.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I hadn't tried that one yet, so that's a little disappointing here, unfortunately. So yeah, I was hoping that was more like Wii Sports or something, but I guess not. Yeah, but so
I think it's pretty accessible. I mean, the motion controlled one, pretty accessible. The only thing that makes it maybe not so accessible is an understanding of all the different powers that your rackets have, right? Like, unless I think if you just played tennis and took out the special rackets, it would, you could set your grandpa up with it and you could play some tennis just like you did 20 years ago. So
yeah, nice. Yeah, so I'll try that power one eventually. The only reason I haven't tried it that way because I've been playing it all handheld, so just without being docked or anything. I haven't tried it docked yet, so I don't know if there's any real difference in graphic quality.
It looks good on a 4K HDR. Looks nice.
Yeah, I mean, just by itself, I mean, handheld it looks fine. I mean, it looks great. So I don't see like any jaggies or anything like that. On the characters, everything's smooth, of course. So it should be hopefully, on the Switch too. But yeah, just having a lot of fun with it. Like I said, I always like the Mario Sports series. So hopefully we get a baseball one at some point because that one there hasn't been a baseball one in a while. So I know soccer's. I think they had one on. No, I don't think they had one on the original Switch.
On
Maybe
the Switch,
Wii U.
They did. Yes, they did.
They did have one on the Switch. Okay.
Yep.
I couldn't remember if they did or not. Nice.
So, Tao, are you here for the tennis or are you here for Mario?
I would say both. I do like a good tennis game. Like I almost bought a tennis game a couple weeks ago, and then I remember, and then I saw that Mario Tennis was coming. I was like, oh, I'll just wait for that. Like that's fine. That's that's good enough. Plus, like I said, you can take off the special rackets if you want to. You don't have to use those, and then it's pretty competent. I think it's a pretty competent tennis game. Without those special rackets. So, you got the different slice and, like I said, the lob and all these other different hits. So the curveball, which I can't seem to do for some reason, but everybody else does that on me. But yeah, it's enjoyable.
Okay, very cool. And DBQ, let's go back to Xbox.
Yeah, so the other game in this game, after my kind of half-hearted endorsement of High on Life, this game I'm really enjoying. And this is Relooted by Namacomp. It's out of a development studio out of Johannesburg, South Africa. And it is it's a puzzle platformer to some degree. Basically, it's very much a puzzle game. The concept of it is that you are repatriating African artifacts that are stored up or in collectors' collections, individuals, or museums. The kind of setup of it is that there's an international treaty that artifacts that have been taken from native countries need to be returned if they are on display. And so many collectors and museums have taken them off display and are storing them. So technically they are finding the loophole in the treaty in this world where they don't need to return them because they're not technically on display. And so you are assembling a team of people to go in and loot these and return them back to their original nations. And so there's a overarching other story with your brother and kind of a crime syndicate that kind of starts it off and comes up a couple different times. Again, I'm only a couple hours in here as well through all the introductory missions that kind of teach you kind of the parkour movement aspects of it. So the general setup, and then I've gone and done a couple heists, and as you're doing the heists, you're building a team that has different special abilities. So you start with your brother who can unlock lock doors and help with security alarms. You have an inventor, you have somebody that has drones and some additional kind of surveillance. So you have the setup of you're going in, trying to locate where the artifacts are, and getting a sense both through like as the camera pans, but then also maybe going ahead a little bit to clear out your exit points, right? Whether you need something, you need to have push a table under a door that's going to collapse when the security gates drop, or have your brother set up on a spot to unlock a door so that you can keep going through. Because then once you grab an artifact or two, or sometimes you're grabbing multiple artifacts. Sometimes even early in the game, they allude to there's other artifacts in the museum that you're at, but you don't have the ability to get through the additional security system yet. So you kind of come back to some of those as well. And so as you grab an artifact or you're grabbing multiple artifacts, you're trying to path together what's the fastest spot between them that doesn't get blocked as the security system gets triggered. And then you're kind of, it's a 2D side scroller. And so then you're kind of parkouring your way out, sliding under, jumping over things, sliding down ropes, wall jumping back and forth to get up to different ledges before you can kind of escape. And you can, if you get caught, like you can get stunned by, you get hit once or twice to get stunned by like the drones that come, the security drones that come. And then eventually if you get hit too much or get too many of the drones on you, you'll get captured. And so one of the really cool things about this is all the artifacts in the game are real. And so you get kind of narrative and log about the kind of the history around it. Or as you're going through a museum, you can stop and look at some of the other artifacts and they'll give you the history of them as well. Like there's things that you are not there to steal, but they still give you history of them as well. So it's pseudo educational. It definitely is a game with a message in terms of repatriating stolen artifacts from nations. And this is the studio's second game. Their first game came out, Semblance, which was out in 2018, and so this is their second game here. I'm in between I kind of want more puzzle heists in between the kind of narrative story parts, because in between your heists you're coming back to part of a city where your crew hangs out and you're going back and forth and doing some little things for different people and meeting some different people. It adds a lot of character, and it adds a sense of the world that they exist in. And so I get why they do it, because it creates a human aspect to it. But the parkour, the movement, the puzzle solving is really, really enjoyable, and kind of like it's a nice loop to get in. Like there's been times where I have gone ahead and thought I figured out how to open up a couple doors so I could clear my path out first, and totally set it up wrong. So I had to restart from a checkpoint and go back in. And, so there's been a few times where I failed in those, and in a puzzle solving way, it's not super open-ended. There are kind of correct paths, but as you're escaping, there are multiple paths that you can escape. So if you're getting, if you have kind of parkour movement, and so if you're timing the button press right as you hurdle over something or slide underneath something, you build up additional speed. And depending on that speed, or if you take a short jump or a long jump, you can take different tracks or paths out of the level. And that sometimes one will take longer than the other. One will drop you right in front of another security drone. And so there are some benefits to your exit points. And sometimes you don't necessarily know what's ahead of you in those exit points because you haven't been able to scope all that out, at least early in the mission. I think once you get the extra surveillance, you can kind of plan some of those more. So, it's a relatively, production values wise, it's a AA. Like the 3D models of people in the story aspects and the narrative aspects are kind of blocky, but definitely work for the characterizations. In the the heist levels. Graphics are great, but they don't need to be super detailed because you're moving pretty quickly through them. Yeah, I think it's for what it's on sale for $15. I think originally it goes up to 18. There's a lot there for the price that it's at. It feels like a $20 game feels reasonable for it.
Yeah, no, its MSRP is $14.99. It's on sale for $13.49.
There we go. Yeah, so there's a lot there for, or it sounds like looking at the reviews, it's about 10 to 12 hours. So, but it feels like a well-designed and well-developed game for kind of landing in that kind of mid-indie space.
Yeah, very cool. And any particular reason is that you chose to get it on Xbox versus on Steam?
So it's day one on Game Pass as well. So I played it there. I'm playing it enough now that I want it for my Steam Deck. So I will end up picking it up because it definitely fits that handheld mode, and the kind of puzzle aspect it seems like it would work really well. And I've been reading it. It runs really well on Steam Deck as well. So before the introductory sale kicks off, I'll pick it up so that I have it on Steam Deck as well.
So I know
also it'd be nice to support the developers. So
yeah. So I know it's a heist game. I mean, but does it skate fairly closely to a Metroidvania?
Not that I mean, I did allude to the fact that there are some, like, there are artifacts that you can't get now as you're going in, but it's much more directed in that, right? Like you are going in for a certain item or two. There are other items that might be other artifacts in the museum or the collection that you're going into that you could, or like it feels like secondary objectives more than it does a need to. There's not a whole lot of branching paths as you're going through and trying to escape out. So it doesn't feel like that. Like I have a sense that I'm going to be coming back to the spots where that was the case once I have more people, and it just becomes part of the narrative.
Okay, very cool. Tao, did you have any questions or comments?
So when you're going through, like once you plan everything out and start the actual run, do you have any kind of like stamina meter, or is just you're just going to try to get through all the obstacles as fast as you can, or get through the obstacles, I should say?
Yeah, I think you have like it doesn't seem clear because I haven't always gotten hit by like the robots. No, but in terms of running, you don't have a stamina meter. You are once you grab an item, I'm holding down R trigger to just run, and then timing my X's to do parkour movements. So like it's less about stamina and it more is about keeping in the flow of the movement, right? Like I could hit X to slow hurdle over a series of barricades, or I could hit A to do a regular jump over them. But if I do a regular jump, yes, I'll clear them, but my momentum's going to slow down. And so I want to be hitting X to keep up that momentum. And so it's not necessarily stamina in terms of like sprinting. It is more of breaking the speed that you're trying to leave at.
All right, well, very cool. Unless there's anything else on that, we can go ahead and move on to the news. All righty. DBQ has the first news story in the rundown.
Yeah, so a couple weeks ago, I talked about we had the announcements of the nominees for the DICE Awards, and this past week was the DICE Summit. And so we also had the 29th annual DICE Awards. So this is coming out. The one I picked up is from Game Informer, from Marcus Stewart. Runs down the list of all the categories and the winners. I would say some surprises, or nothing that feels super surprising, but also not the kind of clear sweep that we've had in some other awards. Claire Obscura Expedition 33 did get Game of the Year. It got Outstanding Art Direction. It also got RPG. It got a couple others of But I think one of the things that, outstanding independent game was Blueprints. You had achievement in story for Claire Obscura. Audio design was Death Stranding. I was kind of surprised that music composition went to Ghost Yotai, considering Claire Obscura has done well in this category for other awards. Art direction was Claire Obscura, and I was glad to see achievement in animation went to South of Midnight. I think that art style and the animation there, was glad to see it get highlighted in terms of kind of that stop motion look and feel that South of Midnight had. Anything that stood out to you, gentlemen, on this list?
Fighting game of the year. I don't know. It's Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, and I get it. Like, there's a lot more in those collections, especially for that one, than just like the games that they put in there. But I don't know. I always feel like collections or like remasters and stuff shouldn't get like the title, get that
right. I could see that because it's not necessarily a new game, right?
Yeah.
And Capcom Fighting Collection 2 was also in the nominees, which also is a collection and not necessarily a new game. So,
but other than that, I mean, everything looked like it was pretty, standard. Rematch was a sports game in there, so that's good to see. A lot. That was a good game that I played quite a lot of during the beginning of last year.
Game Logic, any thoughts? Or otherwise, we can move on to another list in a news story here.
My only comment is, like you said, I like the distribution. Look, I love Claire Obscura Expedition 33, but the notion of it just like grabbing like 10 awards, at a show is a little unfortunate, for other games that came out, and so it's nice to see. It's nice to see. I mean, you still have a pretty significant concentration around Claire Obscura and Ghost of Yotai, but Death Stranding 2, but
Stranding had a couple.
But good to see stuff distributed.
Yeah, I felt like it was a good representation, kind of a cross section of things.
Yeah, and I do like.
I was going back and forth. Sorry, go ahead.
And I do also like the pick of South of Midnight for the animation. I mean, I saw
that one. It was good.
It would have been okay too with had South of Midnight gotten story or character or art direction or music, especially. In fact, I kind of say if you're not going to give it to Claire Obscura, I kind of say it should have gone to South of Midnight, but South of Midnight wasn't even nominated, which is unfortunate because it had some very regionally specific, geographically specific music content. And so,
I was glad to see Sword of the Sea nominated for music as well, but yes, I think compared to Mario Kart World, again, good music, but South of Midnight in terms of but I think that's part of its music design in terms of how it sets a world. It really does a great job of that in South of Midnight.
Okay, well, as you started to say, let's go on and talk about your next news story.
Yeah, let's hit the next list. So Sony had their February State of Play on Thursday afternoon. So you could find all those announcements out on the internet. We are not going to run through all of them because it was over an hour long in terms of the State of Play. It's one of those where if you didn't catch it live, watching on 2-speed is not so bad. I feel like there was a lot that was announced here. Much of it had 2026 dates. Some of it definitely had 27 dates to it. I think personally, I liked what it opened with. I liked what it ended with. There are a few things in between that definitely piqued my interest. So I'll be curious to see what stood out for you, gentlemen. One of the things that opened with right off the bat was Ember Labs' follow-up to Kenna Bridge of Spirits, which is Kenna Scars of Cosmora. Takes place after the first game. Again, this is Ember Labs comes from a CGI development background in terms of creating, cutscenes and other types of things, and character design definitely has that Pixar look to it. But I enjoyed the first game. It definitely, the gameplay was very kind of PlayStation 3 era gameplay. This looks even bigger and broader. You're riding on a wolf or spirit animal, a little more diversity in its landscapes as well. So just, it looks like what you would expect a sequel to it. It keeps a lot of the artistic design and direction and creates a bigger, more expansive world. So I was glad to see that. And then it kicks off into a whole bunch of stuff, and some things we knew about and some things we don't. Anyone want to jump in terms of things that jumped out to them? If we got a multiplayer Ghost of Yotai, Death Stranding 2 coming to PC, some more in-depth look at For Loop, which we've seen before. We got Pragmata and Resident Evil both got some time, but we've seen some of those things. Had an announcement on a new Legacy of Kain, the fourth or third, depending on how you count your Legacy of Kains, the final Legacy of Kain remaster, along with, which I think is kind of a cool addition, along with a playable demo that, a rebuilt playable demo of a game that was never released, which is for kind of, game history aspect. Preservation, I think, is kind of a cool thing there. So the list keeps going and going. Anything here, gentlemen, that you want to come back to or that you want to hit as you're scrolling through?
I'm interested in Death Stranding 2 on the beach coming to PC. I picked it up on PlayStation 5. I played maybe 20 to 30 hours of it last year. Didn't finish it. I don't mind, double dipping, but in having this game on PC where I can play it in ultra widescreen format or other things that that will do better on my hardware. I've been very bullish on Pragmata since it reappeared. I was very interested when we first saw it at the beginning of this generation, and so thanks a lot for bringing it back. 4 years into the gen, so
6 years into the gen. How about?
Yeah. So hopefully we're gonna, it feels good that we're gonna finally see it, finally land the plane. So hopefully it sticks to the landing. That's kind of the only thing that I'm waiting for. How anything between from the start of the show up through Legacy of Kain that you wanted to comment
on? Nothing really. I mean, nothing, obviously, since I don't have PlayStation systems, so it's mostly going to be, like third-party stuff. So, Legacy of Kain, I'm interested in that. Dead or Alive 6, I've always enjoyed those games. I haven't played one in a while, so probably that's coming out for other systems and PC too. So probably pick it up on PC. First Light, the James Bond game. I'm interested in that. The Galactic Racer, which is like the I guess more than just pod racing, kind of the Star Wars Galactic Racer. That looks cool.
Yeah, that seemed like that was the most gameplay that we've seen out of Star Wars Galactic Racer, where you're racing a variety of different vehicles.
Yeah, the John Wick game, that looks like it'll be cool. That's coming out for Xbox and PC also, so probably pick it up on one of those. Other than that, that's probably.
So I want to pause there a little bit on the John Wick game. So
yeah,
I don't know that I've seen any other game that to me was more like watching the Matrix Unreal Engine demo. And I'm like, I just as of today, right now, I'm not convinced that this is a video game. Like this is the John Wick film people, and I can't remember the developer who's doing this game got together and put together a very interesting mocap session. I mean, to me, so it is Keanu in the thing, and it is also clearly to me that's got to be his stuntman, because that did the mocap, because the movements are too.
It is spot on.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
It is. I was thinking that same thing. Watching it, this is impressive, because it feels like the exact movements of watching the hand-to-hand combat. And yep.
And the gun fu, as they call it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a difficult time believing that what we saw will translate to a video game. This feels like the attempt that this feels like there's somebody listening to another podcast who reminded me of the title of this game, but what it caused me to think about was the John Woo video game
Stranglehold,
I think it was called.
Stranglehold. There we go. Yep.
Yeah, that had Chow Yun Fat in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like shows beautifully, but I just don't like. Right now, I'm just not like. This was an incredibly slick tech demo, and I don't even think a tech demo. This is like, it's almost worse than cinematic, right? Like, I just can't buy. Like the next time we see this game, like with actual gameplay, I just don't. Today. I'm just not buying it. Like it was just too slick.
Yeah, it'll be like what was it? Not Mad Dogs. What was the Ubisoft the hacker game?
Watch Dogs.
Yeah, where that first showing was like, it was incredible, but then it kind of, they kind of toned it down after that. The other game I was kind of thinking of too, maybe is like Sifu. Maybe it could kind of be like a little bit like that, kind of hand in hand. Obviously not as good as this, but
it's very possible
go that direction. Yeah,
but yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, it was only a teaser, so it'll be interesting to see. It's got to be years away at this point, and even if it comes together. I think a couple of the other games, I was glad to see
next year, maybe at the earliest.
Yep. I think fall of 27, maybe at earliest. I think
this is a PlayStation 6 game.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yep, that wouldn't surprise me. Well, let's go from high tech to low tech. Mina the Hollower from the Shovel Knight developers finally gets. It was supposed to come out last fall, got delayed, and now they attached a date to it. So coming out this spring, or at least not a complete date to it, but we got the fact that it's coming out this spring. I like the idea of the Yakoi Shinobi Ops. We don't really get a whole lot of what it is, but it looks like a cooperative stealth kind of, Assassin's Creed aspect of 4-player infiltrations. So
this is one that I thought partway through the trailer was shaping up to be like a Blades of the Shogun. And then when I found out like it was all entirely co-op, I was like, in an isometric thing, I was like, I don't know about that, but the notion of being like, of taking like the spec ops paradigm of like real world spec ops operations and like mapping that to like ancient, ninjas and in Eastern martial arts, I thought was super interesting. And then when it was like co-op, I was like, oh,
right. Like, yes, I really liked what I saw, but also can't imagine that I would spend much time playing the co-op aspect of it, or just having a crew together to be successful in the co-op aspect of it. We got a lot from Konami, actually. We got the announcement of the second Metal Gear Master Collection, Metal Gear Solid Master Collection, a little indie game called Darwin's Paradox, which is kind of a stealth action game, or just a stealth game. I played the demo of it on Switch. It demo's out now. You're a little octopus. I love the fact that Motion Twin and Evil Empire, the developers and support studio for Dead Cells, got the Castlevania license to run with something that they had. Dead Cells did a Castlevania crossover a few years back and did it really well. So I'm very interested to see what they'll do there. And I'm always interested in what a new Silent Hill looks like in terms of the atmosphere and kind of my own personal preference is that I like the kind of psychological horror of Silent Hill more than Resident Evil. So it was interesting to see, having both of those in this showcase was nice.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I gotta go back up to it. Hold on. Project Windless by Crafted. That looks kind of interesting.
This
kind of playing this.
This was my game of the show.
Yeah,
really, the giant chicken game. Okay,
kind of more bloody Muso type of game. It looks like.
Well, that's why
maybe Muso, Demon Souls or something like those kind of games. Maybe
that's why one holdback. Like I don't want. I mean, Dynasty Warrior games are fine. They figure into my my rotation. Every rare once in a while. I don't want to play. I don't want to play this. If it winds up being like a Mushu type of game. I'm more interested in. I'm interested in this because it kind of skated a little bit towards like the Black Myth Wukong kind of style. And I'm really interested in the narrative and the fiction. Apparently, I was talking to somebody else on a podcast last night, and apparently the book is being translated to English and is going to release soon. I think in the next few months. So that's interesting. But I loved like the action, and in particular, in similar fashion to like what drew me to Expedition 33. I loved like the fictional premise of what I saw. So super interested to see this, see more of this develop.
That's cool. And it looks
kind of going bouncing back and forth between like the big army thing, but then also he was like attacking, kind of just bigger like lone soldiers or maybe mini bosses or something. So it's cool.
Yeah, I'm keeping my eye on what was this one? Brigadine Abyss. I need to pull the thread a little bit more on this series to see what it's about, because I would be jumping into it feet first, not having played the stuff in the past. So I noticed that it's more of a strategy RPG, and so I do find that interesting because I had a good time from what I played of Unicorn Overlord, which skates a little bit more in the strategic direction. So I'm curious to see how that rounds out. I was really curious about. I'm really interested in this one, Crimson Moon. I feel like it's got that gothic style of gameplay and storytelling and artistic style that has become popular in the last few years. But I also feel kind of like Diablo vibes coming off of it. So obviously told from a different perspective. So I'm gonna be interested to find out if this, has loot drops as part of its core gameplay mechanic loop. And if it does, that will continue to solidify my interest in it. I'm not interested in the co-op perspective of it as much, but I did read that it is meant to be playable as a single player, right, with co-op as an option. So yeah, super interested to see how this develops. Thanks so much, Relooted and Den Solofly for coming through in the chat.
I think Revnor, the other JRPG that comes that had a teaser for it further down after the Konami stuff. I thought that looked interesting as well. This was another Konami game that was announced. Just a kind of Tales like in terms of a JRPG. Looks kind of early on, but definitely kind of feels like a kind of a modern JRPG aspect. So
yeah, this one turned me off a little bit because I feel like it's like the initial presentation of it comes off very MiHoYo and like Genshin Impact,
sure.
Wuthering Waves, like that kind of. And I was like, no. So we'll just kind of see how this turns out and which direction it heads in. Then it gets a little. Then it feels it gets like it feels like a little more grittier. So I'll be interested to see kind of how they unwind in the mini boss battles like you're seeing here in the trailer. Kind of caught my interest, and I was like, oh, okay, well maybe I won't just like totally write this game off. So we'll see how it turns out. Anybody want to talk about anything else before we talk about God of War?
I'm actually interested in Marathon now that I'm kind of on that kind of the what do you call it?
Extraction shooter.
Extraction shooter.
Yeah, so yeah, because it doesn't look as, from what I've seen, like a little bit I've seen some people play it online. When they did the tests, I should say. I don't know if they're beta or not, but not as punishing as like Tarkov, a little bit more. little bit more laid back, more like Arc Raiders. So I'd be interested in that one once it comes out. And it looks like it has an official date. I don't know if they ever had it before, but March 5th, I believe, 4th.
I thought it was 20.
For
I thought it was
Marathon,
26, but I may have confused that with the year.
There's a server slam at the end of February. February 26th. Okay. And then the full release is the first week in March.
Yeah, March 5th.
Yeah, March 5th. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely want to get to that one.
Yeah, what I've read about it is it sounds like they're addressing the thing that I was concerned about. I read about some of the design aspects behind it, and they're going to have, from what I understand, is they're going to have a breadth of like modes and things for different people who are looking for different flavors of PvE, PvP, co-op, right, to get into. So it's not all, just go out and get spanked, and then lose all your gear and then come back and do it all over again. So that's been very interesting to see.
And then of course Marvel token Fighting Souls. Very interested in that one. Kind of sad it's not coming out until later in the year though. So
yeah, I comment. My comment on this is I didn't think about it when it was first announced, but I was like, very fortuitous. I don't know, probably not planned, but incredibly well played for it to be coming out on the roll up to Avengers Doomsday. Really, really, really smart.
Game Logic, I want to hear your thoughts on God of War.
Well, my thoughts on God of War is I don't know what's going on with this. So we had the studio say that like God of War has a horizon. In fact, I thought that they were saying that they were going to move on from it after Ragnarok. And the commentary was, you have developers who work on a franchise for 20 years. And then that's like literally all they've done their whole career. And so I thought there was an interest in doing something else. We know Cory Barlog is supposedly working on a sci-fi game. Narrative, story-driven, cinematic, high production quality, yada, 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 the standard PlayStation stuff. So I was really caught off guard that we're doing a trilogy remake. Then we have the aspect of the television show that's coming out. So but the television show is based on the 2018 story arc, right, with the Norse mythology, which I didn't think about that at the time, but I'm like, because the whole key of these things is you're introducing new fans who may not be video gamers to these IPs. And now I'm starting to think, oh, they're taking a Greek dude, and introducing him in a world of mythology that is a mythology different than where he's actually from. So, again, if you're familiar about the thing from the beginning, that was a big, like, oh, awesome, like they're going to other mythologies. But that was because we had the basis of like where he was coming out of his originating mythology. So that's a little weird from the TV show aspect. But I'm like, but then this thing comes out and I'm like, okay, this thing coming out kind of somewhere in or around the show, and clearly a choice made to not miss the boat, kind of as it looked like was going to happen with Fallout, right? That the Fallout TV show came out, it was a hit, and then people were like, well, where are the video games? Like, so, like, what, why wasn't there a big push behind like setting up a bunch of video games? Now, Microsoft Xbox is getting around to that, but this is just weird, right? This is just like the TV show and what's going on with the video games pointed at two different directions that don't necessarily make a lot of sense. Maybe it makes sense in that if this hits like before the first season or even after, and the pitch is, hey, play the stories that kind of led us up to this point, maybe that makes sense. But the other thing that's weird from a genre and mechanics perspective is I don't know that the 3D half platforming action adventure type of gameplay style that's gonna to me that's gonna feel super antiquated, right? In comparison to what we've played on PlayStation since PS4. Like this is a super very much a PlayStation 3 type of game and game style. And I just don't know that it's going to be as relevant with new gamers. And the thing is, again, if you're putting this out simply to capture the nostalgia and get the people who played it before to play the new one, to play the update, then that's fine. But if you're trying to, now you're going to throw this at some gamers who only know the 2018 and beyond gameplay style. It's like, what is that doing? So, I have, Really Nate mentions Morgan from the Otter Players podcast, who, which is the show I was on last night. And earlier the week on Brap, I kind of mentioned the same thing. I won't be totally surprised if this is actually games built in the 2018 and beyond gameplay style and engine, but telling the stories that were originally told in the trilogy. And I think there'll be content that will be taken out. I suspect like the sex and stuff like that may not be in there, just because, not because I think there's necessarily a problem with the content, but just because I don't know how you really, you definitely don't do it in the same exact way that you did it right in the game, which was very much like a what was the
over the top mini game aspect?
Yeah. What was the GTA 4 scandal again?
GTA 3 hot coffee.
Yes. Yeah. So it was very much a hot coffee kind of mini game, right, in the original trilogy, and I don't think you do that here. Not if you're shift. Well, I'm saying you don't do that if you're shifting it to the new cinematic story playing presentation style like you have in the newer PlayStation era games of PS4 and beyond. You do it. I think you do it in the way that you did it with Tilu 2, right? In the scenes between like Dina and Ellie, right? You kind of allude, you set it up and then you allude to it, right? And then you cut and then you come back. So I don't know. I mean, and of course, all this is just speculation and theories, and the only reason I'm theorizing these things is because there's pieces of this that don't make sense to me. I don't know. What were your guys' thoughts on it?
Well, I think that go ahead, Tal. What were you going to say?
No, go ahead. Because I think I have a different thought than what you're going to say.
Okay. I think that the fact that they're using remake as the language speaks to exactly what you're talking about, right? Like when they did The Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2 for PlayStation 5, those were remasters, right? That they were not remakes. And I think the remake gives them that ability to strip down, take away some of the, maybe there's a few less, QTEs, that you don't necessarily need the button pressing sex scenes there. It allows you to have the visual narrative action combat without necessarily having the same 2005, 2007 level of game design. And I think that, to me, feels like you're going to run through these stories faster, and they're going to be Dragon Quest 7 reimagined in terms of kind of paring them down.
Yes, except scope and scale. Like I feel like these will be, 18 to 22 hour games versus DQ7, which is like a 40-hour game.
Oh yeah, I mean, just in terms of what you're trimming, but yeah, it's not the same. But
yeah, I just don't feel, and I'm going to hand it over to you, Tal. In 2020, whenever this game comes out, and this is the other thing, like they announced this thing super. Like if this were literally just them redoing these things in the original game style, I see like no reason to announce it this early. Like, and I don't think it would take that long. But TC Carson's comment was like, you're not going to see this, forever. So it's just weird to me. But my comment before I hand it over to you, Tal, was like in 2028 or 29, whenever this thing comes out, like I just don't see myself being interested in like climbing ladders, moving left and climbing down another ladder so I can get to a treasure box, right? And jam one button until it opens. I just don't see that as being super interesting gameplay style in that time. But go ahead, Tal.
Just going back to what you're talking about the TV show and it being more following the 2018 game. So in the 2018 game, because I never played those, um, I'm assuming they allude at least to like what happened in the past, like what he did, or not really.
I think like very loosely. Like I like
Very limited.
there's no flashbacks. There's no like when you look at Tlu too, and you guys heard me rant about like my consternation with the flashback scenes. Like there's as far as I remember, there's like no flash. Like, he just talks to it, and so there's kind of an assumption that like the lore.
Yeah, there's a little bit at the very beginning, and then short of like when you dig up your blades, those are kind of the only real connections to the original series.
The original series, okay. I was just thinking because maybe like for the TV series, maybe they can do those flashbacks and say, hey, at the beginning of the series, like, hey, this is what I used to be, and they'll flashback to it, whatever, while he's with his son or whatever, and then they can kind of go into the more meaty parts of the regular 2018 game, and then Solo also mentions they're making that other the Sons of Sparta game, which is even before the original trilogy because it's him and his brother, and that's a 2D game, I believe. I was just looking at the gameplay.
Yeah, and that's out. Pretty cool. That was out. It came out the day of the direct.
Yeah, that's already out. So
showcase.
Maybe that's there. I don't know. Trying to kind of show you who he is or who he was, how he became to be, and such like that. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, so that tells the story of Kratos before he like became the ghost of Sparta. So I mean that tells the story of like human Kratos. So like it's a piece of the puzzle, but it doesn't entirely fill the gap. I mean, Great Scott, in 2018 he's labeled God of War. And without flashback scenes, the expectation is that that he became the God of War, right? Like this thing doesn't, like the titling doesn't even make sense, right? Unless you have all that stuff already packed away. So yeah, I can see the idea, Tao, that that the TV show is like heavy in flashbacks, or maybe episode 1 is like a 5 to 15 minute explainer of how he even wound up in Scandinavia in the first place, which would be neat. It would be a good way to bring people up to speed. So yeah, it would be interesting to see what happens with this.
Game Logic, I think you're the piece that I'm hanging on to, or that feels like the most accurate to me, is they don't want to miss their Fallout moment, right? The fact that they didn't have any gameplay, they have the original voice actor back to this is pretty much putting their marker in the ground of saying, hey, we got something coming. So like, rather than feeling flat-footed, but what it is and when it is, it will be probably between season 1 and season 2 of the television series, most likely.
Yeah, and I think that I was looking up the series, and that's not supposed to come out until 2027. So, and obviously the remake doesn't have a date yet. So it aligns pretty well. So
I'm totally basing it on like the body language and like the messaging that I felt that I saw. This did not come across to me as a 2027 game. Like did not come across to me as a trilogy that's coming out before that show launches.
No, there were other things in that showcase that had a 2027 date on them. So
yeah, there's not even any like gameplay or anything. It's just like the guy talking, basically the voice actor talking.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say, PlayStation over the last couple of years, what we have definitely seen is like they are not going to put a date on a thing until they have guarantees from that team. Right, let's call Bungie the exception. they're not a dyed in the wool. Like the studios who have been part of PlayStation for a very long time, they held on to that God of War Ragnarok date because they weren't going to say what the date was until Corey told them he was absolutely certain that they had that game in the bag. And I think that's becoming more and more so their penchant. So yeah, This like I said, this didn't come across to me as a game we're going to be see anytime soon, because that's absolutely what they said. We'll see. We'll see how the stars align on the thing. So
I'm assuming that's what they closed with, was the God of War stuff. Okay.
Yeah,
I was just wondering.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hit the last news story. I'm just going to hit this quickly because we can talk about it more, but we're well into time frame in terms of our third segment here. So this week, a couple of things around Highguard. So Highguard, as we talked about a couple weeks ago, was 3v3, 5-on-5. A game that came out at the end of January, and now 2 weeks later, we have the announcement from the developers that only a core group of developers will remain, and that a large chunk of the studio has been laid off. So we have first an announcement that came in terms of part ways with a number of our team members, quote unquote. This is coming from a variety of places. This was posted on the Wildlight Entertainment, which is the developer. They make the incredible difficult decision to part ways with a number of our team members, keeping only a core group to continue innovating and supporting our team. And then you've had a number of developers or former employees of Wildlight out on whether it's social media or LinkedIn. Alex Gardner on LinkedIn says, this really stings, was a lot of unreleased content that I was looking forward to. And then kind of the big one being tech artist Josh Sobel, who was also laid off, taking to X to comment on this and really kind of laying it at the feet of the community. And actually, good for him is what I think. Like, if I'm going to stand on my soapbox for a minute, like, good for him. Like, for all, I think the way that he talks about it, one of the quotes that I really appreciate: content creators love to point out the bias in folks who give positive previews for being flown out to event, but ignore the fact when their negative leaning content gets 10 times the engagement of the positive, they have just as much incentive to lean into a disingenuous direction. But I don't see anything wrong with a developer calling out the current state of social media and streamers and the way that, yeah, I mean, I think this was very much the case for Highguard. Not necessarily that this is the reason that it failed, but the fact that it was very easy for people to bandwagon on top of it, in terms of whether it was the criticism around the being the one last thing at the Game Awards, or the radio silence, or the drop and criticism around the game when it came out. So yeah, he's, that comment on Twitter has since come down, but it's captured in a number of places. Video Games Chronicles, the one that we have up here. IGN also has it if you want to read it in full. I've said my piece around the soapbox of this. Gentlemen, any thoughts either on the struggles of Wildlight and kind of laying off a significant number of developers a few weeks into the release of their game, or the kind of pushback from some of those that have been laid off?
I'll let you go first, Tom.
Okay. I mean, I kind of want to play devil's advocate a little bit, because I mean, they did come out strong with their concurrent users, and obviously there was something there that people didn't like. But I understand where he's coming from, though, too, with especially that first quote you read about what he was saying about how, obviously any kind of negativity stuff is gonna be upvoting, and it's gonna be more, in the news and stuff like that. So I just saw it as like it's happening again. We saw that one. What was it, last week? A couple weeks ago? Was that MMO kind of died out of the gate too? I can't remember. Was it Ashes of? I can't remember what the name of the title was. But yeah, I just yeah, it's just another. And I remember you guys had talked about. So I think DB, you had played it right when it 1st came out.
Yep.
Unfortunately, unfortunately, I never did get a chance to jump into it. I didn't get a chance. There's too much stuff going on lately, so I haven't really been going out and playing kind of newer games until this like past week, really. So yeah, it's just an unfortunate turn of events, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, to join DBQ on the soapbox, I mean, so I have no problems with like the studio being held accountable. I have no problems with kind of doing a post-mortem, right, on High Guard of like what worked, what didn't work, why did the game fail, what things were bad. I think I echoed to a certain extent what the developer said. I think the pushback he's getting, right, I mean, here's my austere draconian feeling, and I've said this time and time and time again, and it's sad to say, but I'm going to have to say it. Game developers don't talk to gamers, don't on social media. You're not going to get what you think you're going to get, which is to have people be empathetic with you, to have people commiserate, because you're talking to people on algorithmically driven social media, and people are feeding on the algorithm. So if you want to make comments like that, that's fine. Go to Christopher Dring's show, right, to the Game Business Show, and have that conversation. Do an interview with a professional media outlet, or, great Scott, if you can find one, a content creator who runs a professional show, and make those comments there. And then if people want to, put comments on the YouTube video or whatever, then you don't have to see that. But if you want your comments to be taken seriously, don't put them on algorithmically driven social media. Because just like you said, right, you have too many people who are interested in Schadenfreude, in taking glee in your downfall, and having that drive the algorithm to their content, or just their social media account. A big problem, and I'll say the principal problem I have with kind of the dynamic around High Guard, right? And don't get it twisted. I'm not defending the game. There's kind of 2 or 3 levels for me of a game, and the first level one is your marketing and your voice track has to convince me to take time out of my day to be bothered, first of all. And High Guard never met that bar for me. So those, the developers are accountable for that. But on the content creator side, my biggest problem with this conversation, and particularly around gas games and multiplayer games, and I listened to an episode of I think Sacred Symbols earlier this week, and I think Colin Moriarty kind of said it well. The problem is we have a lot of content creators who the reality is their 70 to 80% of their profile is them playing single player story driven games, primarily oriented around whatever platform is their preferred platform. But because they have a need to be in the conversation, they constantly have a conversation about multiplayer games. And my problem with that perspective is that, I'm just going to be blunt, those people are not multiplayer gas PvE people. Unless you are looking for a game, unless you're like Tao, or like I have been, right, in the past, unless you are actually playing one of these games because you are looking for a game to occupy, right, 40% of your time, 50% of the time, be part of your gas PvE rotation, their commentary on these games is completely unnecessary and is disingenuous. Because no matter what, no matter how good the game is, they're not going to make that game part of their permanent rotation and spend 30 or 40 hours in it per week. They're gonna play the game so they can be part of the conversation, drive the algorithm in the direction of their content, and then they're gonna go right back to their next PlayStation exclusive, right? Or key game in Game Pass. So quite frankly, look, unless you're a hardcore PvE player, like I don't need your commentary on Arc Raiders, right? I don't need your commentary on High Guard. I don't need your commentary on Marathon. I don't need your commentary on Apex Legends. There are people who that is their shtick. Lots of the big streamers, I don't like their voice tracks. I don't like things Dr. Lupo has said. I don't like things Shroud has said, but at least I'll give it to those guys. That is those guys' bread and butter. So when they say something about those games, I think it has a lot more credibility and a lot more weight than, you know, people who are chasing the algorithm and chasing clout. So that's my bit of my soapbox. We ready to move on to segment 3? Okay. Let's go ahead and wrap it up with the remaining things that we've been playing this week. And I think you're up first, Al.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I've been sick this past week. So as you can probably hear in my voice, I hadn't had a ton of playtime with just anything really. But one of the things I did, and I don't like to play games when I'm sick, which is kind of weird because I think it's kind of the opposite for most other people. This one I did play because it's pretty casual, cBalatro. So I jumped back into that, or I was continuing to play that. Excuse me, on a Switch 2, which I had bought last week. Yeah, just that once again, it's just a fun little kind of time waster, play a few rounds or so. I think I probably got one of the farthest runs I've had in, because I played it on PC. Also, I was playing it on my Steam Deck originally last year, I believe, year before. Probably one of my longest runs so far. But you get to that point where it's like, oh yeah, I'm doing so good, and then you just hit that wall because it's some weird, goofy. You hit that boss, and you get the goofy, nerf that happens. Like you can't use, diamonds or spades or whatever, or there's some kind of goofy thing that they do to you, and I couldn't get past them. So it's kind of humbling, I guess. So, you got to go back and start over again, and you unlock the different jokers and stuff too. So it's always nice, just kind of keep trucking along. But yeah, just a fun little game that I like to pop into every so often.
Okay, very cool. DBQ, were you off checking out or getting ready for the new class coming to the series of games?
Yeah, so the Diablo 30th live stream that came out this week that put Diablo 2 Resurrected on Game Pass also launched the Warlock class for Diablo 2 Resurrected. Gave me a reason to go back and play a little more Diablo. I still have Diablo 4 installed on my PlayStation 5. I chip away at it every once in a while. Like it's one of those where I come back to, dabble in and out. Like I always feel like I want to spend more time in it that like I did when I played Diablo 3. But I always kind of bounce off it a little bit. But it's a nice kind of wind down at the end of a night, depending on the difficulty you're playing at. There's not a whole lot of brain to go on. And Diablo 2, I mean, what it really is bouncing back and forth between Diablo 2 Resurrected and Diablo 4 within a series of 3 days of playing both of them. It speaks to completely different game design, even though they are ultimately very similar games. Like the more kind of strict or stringent pipeline of loot, and even just the whole identify system and the gameplay loop around Diablo 2, the pace of it compared to Diablo 4, where it is easy to see how things are built differently in a modern audience of keeping attention compared to Diablo 2. But I'm also finding that I still kind of enjoy Diablo 2. Like I have been tempted multiple times to plop down some money for the Warlock class. But at the same time, as I've been bouncing back and forth, tempted to plop down some money to play the Paladin class coming for Diablo 4. So again, they're both, what you're getting when you're playing both of them. I guess it really depends on if the seasonal model. I don't know, both of you have played Diablo 4 on and off since its launch in 23. If that seasonal model of building characters and running during the season is something that hooks you. And I think one of the things that I found myself enjoying going back to and loading up Diablo 2, since I haven't played that since its kind of beta and demo when it Resurrected launched, is how the pace of it, there's no pressure to be in the battle pass leveling aspect of things and staying up and current. You can kind of direct your own pressure. I think one of the things that it reminded me of also is just lighting a candle for Vicarious Visions, as it was shut down and kind of molded into the rest of Blizzard, who Vicarious Visions had done lots of things in PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 era, and they were the lead developers for the Diablo 2 Resurrected.
I have definitely gone back to Diablo 4. What I'm not interested in is being nickel and dimed and paying for characters. Like, what I want is the Diablo 2 model. Like, release the game, then release a big, update content pack, expansion pack, whatever, that adds like 2 classes, right? And then be done. Like, I'm not interested in, constantly having to go back and monkey around with, paying extra. Not because I mind paying, but just because, like, I don't need the administrivia. Like, just hold on, just release a big expansion pack with like 3 new character classes in it or whatever, and and let people go have fun. But I don't know. Tao, your background.
No Man's Sky, yes. Still, like I mentioned last week, there had been some tweets from the head developer over there at Hello Games, as he's wont to do right before an update happens, and of course that's what happened this past week. I believe on Wednesday, Tuesday or Wednesday, it had come out. The Remnant update came out, so it's basically waste management simulator, so more or less. So you're going around the planets now, and there's actually an expedition that came out too. It usually happens when they do these big updates. You're going around the planets now to collect different kind of waste. So like toxic, there's like nuclear waste, or like like kind of nuclear waste that happens, and of course exploding barrels, because that's you got to have exploding stuff in every game. So there's a new vehicle. There's a vehicle called the Colossus, I believe it's called, kind of a bigger land vehicle. You're able to do some customization to that now. So you can customize the cab, you can customize like the wheels, you can have like treads, and like these kind of spider-like legs spider-like legs that you can put on it, and then there's a flatbed now in the back, so you can load when you go to these different spots, and you can see it on your visor. You go to these spots, and you load everything on and bring it back to like a processing plant, and you get some nanite for some of the kind of just generics. There's like also some generic kind of just garbage, like tires and just like pieces of metal and stuff like that. Big metal boxes that you can pick up. Also, you can get like nanites for that, and I think just more nanites and money when you get this other special waste that you pick up, which is all the explosive and other kind of stuff. But of course, because they have to make it a game. The places of where, so there's like small kind of like little pockets of this, the garbage kind of all around, but then there's these waste, I forgot what they're called now, waste dumps, I think, or something like that, where you go, where there's like a huge pile of it, and you can load it onto your truck, and then you got to bring it back to the processing plant. Of course, the processing plant is like literally like 10 to 15 minutes away. You got to sit there for 10, 15 minutes and you drive your vehicle across, the terrain, which, all of a sudden you're driving and you're coming over a hill. Excuse me, you're coming over a hill, and there's like a hole there, so you fall in the hole and everything goes spilling out. So you got to pick everything up and then use your terrain manipulator to kind of dig your way out of it, so you can kind of climb out of there. So yeah, that was kind of frustrating when I was doing the expedition, because the planet they put you on is like just punishingly hard as far as like the terrain is. It's like huge hills, and like I said, there's a lot of these like kind of like when you come over the hill, like I said, and then there's holes just everywhere. So it was kind of frustrating. I'm not gonna lie at first, but then I got kind of used to it and kind of felt out like, okay, when I come over the hill, I just got to let off the gas, and I can kind of just cut and coast over it. Because even if there's no hole there, like even if you come up too fast, you're gonna not flip the truck, but you're gonna flip everything out of your cab, or out of your flatbed, out, because it's just, you're going too fast or whatever. So I kind of got the rhythm of it eventually, but I think I'll enjoy it a little bit more once I find a planet that's not so bad, not so much hills and dips, and sometimes with the spider legs for some reason, um, the blue, I think it's dehydrogen, those little blue crystals you can kind of find pockets of. That's like your kryptonite in the game when you have the spider legs, because as soon as you hit a patch of those, you just like dead stop. So you have to like turn yourself around and kind of go out of it and kind of go around of it. So it's like anything else you won't get stuck on, but for some reason those stupid crystals you'll like automatically get stuck on. So but other than that, yeah, it's you got some cool like I said, you get the customization options that you kind of unlock for your regular save when you're doing the expedition, which I got. And then you get this cool armor outfit, which it looks not so much No Man's Sky-ish, but more like Light No Fire, like of the little bit we've seen of that game. So so that's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool outfit though, so I like that. So I did finish it. It took me like I think 2-3 days. It was like pretty quick. I think the expeditions usually run for a couple months or so. I think it's like every 2 or 3 months, like every quarter, basically. They usually have a new one. So a whole lot of time, but I just wanted to get that thing done because I just kind of, since I was sick, I took I took one day off of work. So I was just like grinding the heck out of that thing to get it done because it was just annoying me. But I want to try it now that I'm back on my regular save. I want to try it a little bit more and just to see. Probably could have done the smart thing, and because you're pretty much going to the same kind of big waste dump, I think the whole time, as far as I could tell. And I'm assuming there's multiple ones though across like the whole planet. I'm assuming I probably should have just like did the Earth manipulator and just like cleared a path, which probably would have been the smart thing to do. But I'm just didn't think about it until I was pretty much almost done. I was like, oh well, okay, that's probably what I should have done. But and then the other thing too with the expedition was you're locked to one planet, so you just had to stay on that one planet. So that's kind of once again kind of like No Fire because you're on I think it's supposed to be Earth, I believe, for Light No Fire. I think they mentioned that, but I know you're only locked to one planet in that game too. So I think they're a lot of times they haven't actually officially mentioned, but I think a lot of the stuff they're kind of testing for that game. So that was one of the things. But yeah, it's still fun though. I'm still enjoying it, still playing it because I love the game. It's my new Minecraft.
All right, very cool. I have been continuing to play through the Legend of Heroes: Tales Beyond the Horizon. So I've got about 75 hours in the game now. There's definitely things that are bothering me now. Probably mostly because I'm in near end game and I'm just trying to get through to the end. I probably had my most aggravating boss battle today. There is first of all there's an AI in the game in the Grim Garden, which is this grind location that is supposedly like this virtual reality space, but it's there so you can grind right for your character levels. And her dialogue, her script is entirely 2025 2020s like social media tropes, and that's her entire shtick in language. It's like it's like listening to a live streamer or talking to somebody on TikTok, talking to somebody on Twitter. It is the exact type of stuff that has driven me to not participate in social media anymore, and it is mind-numbing. It is complete and entire brain rot. And when she shows up, she talks for a very, 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 very long time, and I'm just like, it's and so today, after 70 hours of gameplay, she suddenly participated in a boss fight, and one of the things she does is she gives this boss a buff that lasts for 8 turns, and there's very, very, very little bit to non-existent of a visual cue that she's giving this buff. So for the first part of the fight, I didn't realize what she was doing, and I didn't realize the impact of it. But after a couple turns, I'm like, I'm not doing like any damage to this thing. And the buff that she's giving it makes it impossible to do any damage while this buff is active. And then you have characters who will have powers who can debuff, but debuffs are always turn specific. So if you get a buff that lasts if you get a debuff that lasts 2 or 3 turns, and you take a curia, which is like this, potion that eliminates debuffs, that dose of curia is a 1-turn debuff. So if you've got a debuff that lasts 3 turns, you use your turn to take 1, that just reduces it to 2. It doesn't like wipe it. So when you use powers to debuff this boss from the buff that she's given it, you're just knocking 1 turn off. So it's like a significant amount of time that like you can do no damage to this thing. This thing also shows up with like 300,000 hit points. So yeah, it was just a super like aggro, and some of the boss battles do this. They like there's a point where you will get in the fight where typically when you've almost got the boss defeated, and then it will just do some things where it will get like 4 attacks in a row. You will like multiple boss battles, not all of them, but some. I've gotten to a point where you bathtub, meaning you get 2 characters knocked down. You're down to 2 characters. You're expending your movement turns to revive characters, or to heal up. And you're just constantly in this like sick, like recursive bathtub for like 3-4 turns. And you're like, I was almost done with this thing, and now I'm dealing with this, right? And then you can climb back, but climbing back out of the bathtub is like several more turns, right? Till you get everybody healed up to the point where you can like withstand damage. So that was a particularly irritating boss fight today. And then my second piece of it, part of the game that I dislike, is very analogous to the platforming in Expedition 33, which I did none of, and I know lots of people complained about. But that was there kind of as an afterthought. But there's a hacking mini game in this game that is incredibly aggravating and annoying, because the control scheme, it's like worse than Halo vehicle controls, and you're supposed to like guide your little thing around this, again, virtual reality type of hacking mini game. The hacking mini game today, they introduced an entirely new hacking mini game. I'm like, bruh, I'm 75 hours into the game. I don't want to be bothered with like yet a new iteration of like this thing that I already dislike. So yeah, that's like I said, continuing to grind through it. I am in Act 3. I threw my hands up and almost cried earlier this weekend when I finally broke into the final act. So it's difficult for me to ascertain exactly how far away I am. The stuff that I've seen written about the game says that your characters will be at level 90 when you get done, or above. My characters are level 41 right now, so I'm like, I don't know what I'm missing. I've done significantly more content and side missions, so I would think that they would be up. I've cleared the 6th domain of the Grim Garden. There are 9 domains in the Grim Garden to clear. The Grim Garden's not mandatory, but all the literature out there says, no, you need to do the Grim Garden stuff to grind for your characters to get them to level up. But I am in Act 3, so I'm unquestionably, into the bottom 25% I'd say of the content. So somewhere in there between like the levels and the Grim Garden and the mainline content, I know that I am, in the final bucket. So I've got a couple more chapters in Act 3 to get through, because you have to go through a chapter for each like main character group. And so I think I'm wrapping up Van's chapter arc now, and then I've got to do the other 2, but pretty close to the end. But it's been a fun romp. There's been a couple things, like I said, that haven't been my favorite aspects of the game, but my big fear is as I'm getting into Endgame, I will see more iterations of those things that I dislike, and that's what I hate about Endgame. It's like, don't give me more of the stuff that I can't stand in the game. Give me more of the stuff that caused me to stick with the game in the first place. So we'll just see what that luck of the draw shows. So yeah, E-Nate says that sounds like a standard JRPG to me, specifically Octopath Traveler. But I played a ton where there is a character like that. Yeah. Okay, new releases for next week. The only things coming out, thank goodness, are Avowed on PlayStation 5 comes out on February 17th, and then Star Trek Voyager Across the Unknown comes out for PS5, Xbox Series, Switch 2, and PC on February 18th. So It's good that we don't have a landslide of new content debuting this week. Those weeks are coming as we head into March. So again, continue plowing through your games, because we're about to get the spring deluge here. About the time that we hit like the Resident Evil stuff, things will pick up through the spring. I think roughly through like Memorial Day, and then I think we've got a break, and we've also got some lack of clarity of, just like we have in the last few years, of what the out year looks like. But again, let's also remember what's happened the last couple of years. We have gotten new game announcements of games coming out like that year, like in the summer. Like we've gotten new announcements for games in August that come out in like September, October, November, December. I think as the GTA 6 thing, people get more confidence that like it's not going to miss. We'll see that pulled back a little bit to the left of people who will push their games out, right, to get out of the way of GTA 6 and launch them early. And we're probably going to get traffic pile up of games launching in December, right after GTA 6 has come out and had kind of about a month, right, to marinate and simmer and maybe create some windows for other people to put some things out. So, gentlemen, any other comments or anything else you want to cover tonight before we get out of here?
Nope. Looking forward to the Star Trek Voyager game, but probably won't get it right away. Get it eventually.
I started playing the demo of it this weekend just to kind of poke around at it. I'm kind of excited about it. I went back and watched the pilot or not the pilot, but the first story arc in Voyager this weekend, and the demo kind of very much follows along with that opening episode. So it's pretty cool. And they just updated the demo so that Robert Duncan McNeil, who played Tom Paris, give some voiceover in the kind of intro to it. So
yeah, Tom was one of my favorite characters in the show. DBQ, did you play the Altars at all?
I did not. No, I think Tao did. Played a little bit of it. Nope. Okay.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, that's what I'm a little curious about, is how much of like the base building, ship building kind of skates close to the Altars, or just in looser terms, plays out like XCOM.
Yeah, this is very much a tech strategy game, at least so far in the demo. You've got a lot of menus and you've got parts of your ship, and yeah, it's not action based at all from what I've seen.
Alrighty, well, thanks so much for everybody who happened to swing through the chat and watch the live stream of the show. So Den Solo Fly and the Real Innate, we appreciate you. For anybody else who happens to catch the archive version of this live stream on the E2KG Network podcast channel on YouTube, we appreciate you as well. Please feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you can just get a notification whenever we post new content. We will be back next week, Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and DBQ will be at the helm with Tao and I, Flying Wingman. So until next time, take care of yourselves, stay safe out there, play the games that you like, come here to talk to us about the games that you love. Once again, my name has been Game Logic from the Rounding Off Infinity Gaming channel on YouTube, here with my co-host DBQ Hams and Tao Master 99. Until next time, good night, good luck, and good gaming. That's going to do it for us. We're out of here.